2 Samuel chapter 4. Everything changed in Israel when Abner died. He had been very powerful and had been able to control the whole country. Now, Ishbosheth was too weak to rule the country alone. Everyone in Israel was worried about the future. In this chapter, we will see how two leaders of raiding bands changed the situation. The weakened condition of the house of Saul, verse 1. When Ishbosheth, son of Saul, heard that Abner had died in Hebron, he lost courage and all Israel became alarmed. Ishbosheth was greatly troubled that his commander Abner was killed. Ishbosheth probably thought that David would come after him next. All Israel were discouraged and alarmed on account of the death of Abner, in whom they confided, and feared the vengeance of David, to which Abner had apparently fallen a victim. They feared that through Abner's death, his treaty with David would be broken off or would be managed with so much prudence, and they were apprehensive that it might be of a disastrous kind. Baanah and Rekah, the Benjamites, verses 2 and 3. Verse 2. Now Saul's son had two men who were leaders of raiding bands. One was named Baanah and the other Rechab. They were the sons of Rimmon the Beerothite from the tribe of Benjamin. Beeroth was considered part of Benjamin. Beeroth was one of the four cities of the Gibeonites, Joshua 9:17, and was allotted to the tribe of Benjamin, Joshua 18:25. Saul was a Benjamite. The verse stresses that these men were also of the tribe of Benjamin to show the friction within the house of Saul and his son Ishbosheth. Plans of how to grab the royal power began once Abner was dead. Verse 3. Because the people of Beeroth fled to Gittaim and have resided there as foreigners to this day. At the death of Saul in Mount Gilboa, when many of the Israelites deserted their cities and left them to the Philistines, 1 Samuel 31:7, the inhabitants of Beeroth forsook their city, which was near the Philistines, and went to Gittaim, a city in their own tribe Benjamin, for refuge. The expression "until this day" tells us that from the time when this actual event had happened to the time when the author had compiled 2 Samuel, the Beerothites lived in Gittaim. Jonathan's son Mephibosheth, verse 4. Jonathan, son of Saul, had a son who was lame in both feet. He was 5 years old when the news about Saul and Jonathan came from Jezreel. His nurse picked him up and fled, but as she hurried to leave, he fell and became disabled. His name was Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth's original name was Merib-Baal, derived from the idol Baal. 1 Chronicles 8:34. Samuel changed his name to Mephibosheth, which means he strikes down idols and shame. Because he was disabled, he was not a likely candidate to inherit the throne from Ishbosheth. Mephibosheth is introduced in this passage to show that he was no real threat to David's kingship from Saul's family. This encouraged Baanah and Rechab to murder Ishbosheth so that the crown would necessarily come to David. Mephibosheth was about 13 years old in this chapter. The story of Mephibosheth continues in chapter 9. Entry of Baanah and Rechab into the king's bedroom. Verse 5. Now Rechab and Baanah, the sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, set out for the house of Ishbosheth, and they arrived there in the heat of the day while he was taking his noonday rest. It was a custom in hot countries to take a siesta at noonday in the coolest part of the house, usually in the wheat granaries of their house. Wheat granaries became bedrooms in the afternoon on hot days. Baanah and Rechab murder Ishbosheth, verses 6 and 7. Verse 6. They went into the inner part of the house as if to get some wheat, and they stabbed him in the stomach. Then Rechab and his brother Baanah slipped away. It was the custom in the east to provide wheat for the soldiers under the king's command along with some pay. So, the wheat carriers usually carried grains and stored in the king's granaries for the king's household and his soldiers. Also, the wheat sellers took out grain from the king's granaries to distribute it to the soldiers under the king's command. So, wheat carriers and wheat sellers always kept coming to the king's granaries. Under the pretense of this normal routine, Rechab and Baanah accompanied the wheat carriers and wheat sellers and killed the sleeping king. Ishbosheth is an instance and proof of sluggishness and inactivity. He had left the management of all affairs to Abner his general and had given himself to sloth and sensuality. Proverbs 20:13 says, "Do not love sleep, or you will grow poor. Stay awake, and you will have food to spare." The idle soul is an easy prey to the destroyer. Ishbosheth was taking his siesta in the heat of the midday when Baanah and Rechab killed him. His fellow Benjamites killed him. They were not satisfied just to kill him, they beheaded him and left the palace undiscovered and unsuspected. Cutting of Ishbosheth's head was an important part of their plan because they wanted to prove to David that they murdered David's rival to the throne. To avoid easy detection, the men traveled all night by way of the Arabah. The Arabah or Valley of the Jordan was a natural route from Mahanaim to Hebron. Baanah and Rechab bring the head of Ishbosheth to David. Verse 8. They brought the head of Ishbosheth to David at Hebron and said to the king, "Here is the head of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul your enemy, who tried to kill you. This day the Lord has avenged my lord the king against Saul and his offspring." The son of Saul your enemy. David couldn't relate to this because he didn't think of Saul as his enemy. The beautiful song David composed at the death of Saul and Jonathan proved that David did not regard them as an enemy. The murderers said, "The Lord has avenged." They pretended piety and loyalty and represented themselves as the instruments of the Lord. They presumed on God's approval of their deed as though they had acted on the Lord's express orders. David did not see their deed as the Lord's vengeance, but as the murder of an innocent man. David's reaction when Baanah and Rechab tell of Ishbosheth's death, verses 9 to 11. Verse 9. David answered Rechab and his brother Baanah, the sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, "As surely as the Lord lives, who has delivered me out of every trouble." As surely as the Lord lives. David praised the Lord for his provident work and proclaimed the Lord's deliverance. Ishbosheth was not a military man. He was a harmless puppet king. Baanah and Rechab have killed a man who could not defend himself. The worst part was that they have invaded his home and killed him in his own bed. They are not just killers, they are murderers. God's law required the death of those who murder others. David justly executed vengeance upon them and punished them by the law of the Lord. Exodus 21:12, Leviticus 24:17. David has Baanah and Rechab executed. Verse 12. So David gave an order to his men and they killed him. They cut off his hands and feet and hung the bodies by the pool in Hebron. But they took the head of Ishbosheth and buried it in Abner's tomb at Hebron. The cutting off of their hands and feet was a retaliation for their murder of Ishbosheth. Their hands were cut off because of the evil thing they had done with their hands. Their feet were cut off because they had carried Ishbosheth's head to David. They were hung by the pool so that it would be a terrible warning against the commission of such crimes. The pool is a place where all the people resorted. The mutilation of the bodies of the criminals was itself a disgrace, and the hanging by the pool made this disgrace as public as possible. On the other hand, the head of Ishbosheth was honorably buried in the sepulchre of his chief commander and supporter Abner at Hebron. The head of Ishbosheth was buried to show that David honored him. Ishbosheth had depended on Abner when he was alive. When he died, their bodies shared the same grave. David was loyal to his pledge to honor and preserve Saul's family and descendants. 1 Samuel 24:20-22. 2 Samuel chapter 4. Questions and answers.